Well, we're down to the last 36 hours. Things are so close. The results could take longer. I think we all would say, please no, but we don't know. We do know this: so much money has been spent that it's hard to tune into a football game over the weekend without wading through some of the many ads for the former president and the current vice president. Never mind the many local races taking place. But one thing has been clear: it's still the case that negative advertising works better than positive. I know that breaks a lot of hearts. It's just a reality. It's not my opinion, it's the research, and it shows negative ads are usually the most memorable. But even without the ads, the last week has been spent with President Biden calling Trump voters garbage, and the Harris campaign cutting and pasting a comment that Donald Trump made about former Representative Liz Cheney to try and make it sound like that he was talking about putting a firing squad in front of her, when he was actually making a point that Liz Cheney and her father, Dick Cheney, were both way too quick about sending American soldiers to fight overseas when neither of them had ever served in uniform. So on one side, we've seen Donald Trump out explaining what he will do if elected, Kamala Harris trying hard to avoid saying anything specific as she tries to put space between her 4 years as vice president and her policies with Joe Biden, which, well, very few people are bragging about that. Our guest tonight is the president and co-founder of RealClearPolitics, Tom Bevan. And Tom, close to 80 million people have already voted. It's a big deal to see this many people vote early. Your Real Clear polling average shows the presidential race is within the margins of error. But it's also showed some movement to the former president in the last couple of weeks. So let's talk about here on election eve. Where do you think this thing ends up?
Well, as you said, it'd be great if we all knew, and I think that's what everyone was hoping for, is certainty. But right now, it's very uncertain. Our national average between Harris and Trump shows the race tied, and that is an average of about 12 different polls that have been taken over the last 2.5 weeks. So it literally can't be any closer at the national level. Now, typically, that would mean good news for Donald Trump, because he has and has had an electoral college advantage. Because we don't have a national election. Everybody knows we're battling it out in 7 key states, essentially. And Trump's lead there has been on average about 1 percentage point. It's now down to about 0.7 of a point. But it's very, very close in the battleground states as well. And it's one of the things I went through, all of our averages the other day, Governor, and found that the number of polls this year that are showing the race exactly tied in these swing states is 4 to 6 times more than we had in 2020 or 2016. So there's something going on with the pollsters. There's something going on that everybody's seeing this race as essentially a dead heat, and that's kind of where we find ourselves on the eve of the election.
The economy is uncertain. You never know whether your money's worth as much today as it was yesterday. It's one of the reasons I buy gold from American Hartford Gold. American Hartford Gold has earned a 5-star rating and an A+ from the Better Business Bureau. Be sure to tell them Mike Huckabee sent you. They'll give you up to $15,000 of free silver on your first qualifying order. Call 844-417-1010 or text Mike to 998899. You'll be glad you did business with American Hartford Gold. It's a little odd to some of us to think that these polls have been all over the board. We had one in Iowa this past weekend that showed that Kamala Harris was up 3 points over Donald Trump, when on the very day that the Des Moines Register poll came out showing Harris up by 3, the Emerson poll came out showing Donald Trump up by 10. Now, that's a big disparity. So something is an outlier on polls like that. And I said, I don't buy that poll about her being ahead in Iowa, because if it were true, both campaigns would have changed their schedules and headed to Iowa. Neither of them did. So how are the pollsters getting it wrong, and what are they missing, or what is it that the people of America just don't want to tell them?
Yeah, we don't know that they're getting it wrong. That's one of the things. We can't know. It's one of Don Rumsfeld's known unknowns, right? We'll wait and see when the votes are counted, and then we'll be able to sort of assess which pollsters got it right, which ones were didn't get it right or were less accurate. What I think, so the Harris campaign's argument is, I don't know that they don't think they're going to win Iowa. I don't think anyone believes that they're going to win Iowa. But if what Ann Selzer, who's traditionally been a pretty good pollster, if what she's picking up on is something that is happening in other states that is not being picked up on, directionally speaking, is accurate, and that is what she found in her poll was that older women basically were supporting Harris by over 2-to-1 margins, and she attributes that to the abortion ban that became the law of the state of Iowa recently. If that's true and that is replicated in other states, then that might not be picked up by pollsters, and that's something that has the Harris campaign very excited over the last 24, 48 hours. I think on the other side, you've got Republicans, and Alex Castellano spoke to this over the weekend, that kind of one of the things that I think is being underreported on the Republican side is the huge gains that they've made in voter registration in a lot of these battleground states, Pennsylvania in particular. And as you mentioned, the number of early votes. I mean, the GOP is going gangbusters in some of these battleground states with the early votes. And that tells you that they're organized, and it may not tell you as much about the final outcome, but it certainly gives you an idea that Republicans are feeling pretty energized. And so that's one of the things that I think has the Trump campaign feeling confident. Both sides feel like they're surging through the tape here at the end. Both sides think they have this race won, and they can't both be right.
Yeah, I can say from the experience of being a candidate, no candidate on the eve of the election says, I'm really losing this thing. It's going to just go completely amok for us. Says no one who has ever run for office. You always have your optimistic voice out there, even up till the votes just are so overwhelming you can't argue it anymore. But there is something that I think a lot of voters are concerned about, and I think maybe more on the right than on the left, but even some on the left. Will the votes be all 100% legitimate? Will there be some funny business going on? Over the weekend, Republicans filed suit in Georgia because they were taking in ballots that came in after the deadline, which is against the law, and they wouldn't let poll watchers come in, so they filed a suit. We had similar situations last week in Pennsylvania where there were thousands of votes that seemingly just showed up. Not really accounted for with a good trail of evidence. Tom, are you confident that the election this year has been carefully monitored to the point that there really will be no significant and statistical, I guess the word would be damage to the outcome of the election?
Well, no. And I think, look, part of this is, if it is close, and there are legal battles going on in these states, a la 2016, 2020, that will invite the perception that, there's some funny business going on. And that obviously is going to further undermine public trust in our elections. I mean, what we really need, as a country is just a good old fashioned butt kicking in one direction or another. So, if one state is decided by 5,000 votes or something, it doesn't matter, right? Because it's the victory is overwhelming. Is there a chance we could get that this year? Sure, I think there is a chance. If Trump is being undercounted in the polls by even 1% or 2%, he's going to win all of these swing states. And so, if there's a controversy in Georgia over a couple thousand votes, or in Wisconsin or Michigan, it's not going to matter. But if it is close, then I do think we will see stuff like that, and I think it will further undermine. It's going to be could be 2016. I mean, the nightmare scenario, Governor, obviously is, we have sort of 2016 on steroids, where there's recounts and legal battles in multiple states, and the outcome is unknown for days and weeks. That would be a real problem, and I think it'd be bad for the country.